On this episode of AVWeek, a new production hub lets you rent and schedule gear. Also, Shure buys STEM and what we're thankful for in the year of 2020. All that and more next on AVWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 484, recorded Wednesday, November 25th, 2020. Growing STEM.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
QSC, who invites you to go native with the QSys audio, video, and control ecosystem.
And by
Atlona, the go-to provider for AV signal distribution and control in corporate, higher education, and residential spaces.
This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. By the time you watch this, I guess we could say happy post-Thanksgiving to those of you in the U.S. and those fine Canadians that celebrate two Thanksgivings, because you guys are bastards. You get one in October, and then you get one in Thanksgiving. People like my buddy Matt Scott. It's what happens when you're Canadian, you marry American, and you get both. So for the rest of you world, happy Monday. So because y'all don't have Thanksgiving. Anyhow, with me to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, Victoria Barella. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is Akin Adewale. He is from Barracks out east. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Tim.
And last but not least, we have two Chicagoans, Peter Herr, who fed into my coffee addiction not too long ago. He is from Shure. Welcome, sir.
Good to be here. Thanks, Tim.
Just so Peter and I can have this cup is filled with something called unicorn blood.
Oh, you're really back on the unicorn blood.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So the company is called just went on my head. Dark Matter Coffee in Chicago, local roastery. They have a monthly, which this month's monthly is a Warm November Rain for those of you Guns N' Roses fans. It's a good brew, but they always have unicorn blood, and it is my new favorite cup of coffee. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and they ship, just for the record. So there's that. And I still like my Rook from New Jersey way, so don't freak out about that. All right, let's chat for a second here. Actually, Peter, we're gonna pick on you first because y'all had some fantastic news this week. If you hadn't heard, Shure has acquired STEM Audio to expand its portfolio of conferencing audio solutions. Article we're using is from our friends over at AV Network, and we'll talk about them here at the end of the show. From the article, with the acquisition of STEM Audio, quote unquote, Shure says it will be able to further expand and diversify its solution offering for organizations of all sizes, while STEM Audio will benefit from the robust global infrastructure and support capabilities that Shure provides. If you are not familiar with STEM, here is the 50,000 really quick elevator pitch. They make really interesting killer conference systems. Okay. Now, I am simplifying it to the nth degree, and if you want to find out more about them, you can certainly go to their website, and I'm assuming eventually go to obviously Shure's website. Peter, let's start with you. In the era of COVID, and the fact that some folks are kind of pulling back, other folks are revamping their conferencing systems. You guys have had major headway over the last 3 or 4 years with a number of microphones, not the least of which is the 910s. Mm-hmm. What does this acquisition, say not only to the market but also to the dealers that are looking at, getting more and more into conferencing? What does this say to them about Shure's position, but also the kind of your guys' future in that space?
Well, I think there's a few things. I would say probably one thing that the acquisition allows us to kind of do is expand our reach towards kind of maybe the more do-it-yourselfer almost on that front. The STEM kind of value prop in a summation, in my opinion, is kind of like it's really easy to deploy audio that really sounds good and does the job. We've prided ourselves on doing that for the larger spaces, more advanced spaces, working with our channel partners and integrators to get you there. But I think STEM provides that option for folks that maybe don't have those types of resources at their disposal, and maybe either want to do it themselves or want to find a way to kind of do it just with a little bit more of a simpler workflow. So I'm excited about this. I think there's a lot to be gained. I mean, kind of like what you even quoted from the press release kind of says it all, really. It really kind of allows us to expand our range, and then also allows, STEM to kind of grow itself from a standpoint of, leveraging our distribution network that we've built up over 90 plus years, right? So there's something to be said for it, and we're excited to see where it takes. And I'm thrilled from a marketer's perspective. I'm excited to learn from those guys and really collaborate closely with them. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it is kind of like, giving an upstart and giving a kind of a young, nimble team the power of a global powerhouse, which you guys are, absolutely. So,
Totally.
Akeen, one of the things that we've talked about, especially on the commercial, on the residential side, and that's that do it with me, right? That Peter kind of talked about a little bit with the DIY. Do it with me is, oh hey, we're an IT department, and we're going to buy a bunch of these things, and we're going to try to put them in ourselves. Oh hey, wait, we can't, right? So how does this help folks like you guys? And Varex, in that kind of market where the IT departments are realizing there are certain aspects of AV that they absolutely can do, right? And you can't say that they're not capable, because AV is inherently IT now, and it lives on that network, and that's certainly parts that they can do. Right. And then you get into the magic of it. Then you get into the art of AV. So how does that help engineers like you guys and Varex, come along and say, that's great that you did that. Now let us help you, and this is our new value proposition.
Well, I thought it was interesting when I was reading about the acquisition. I noticed that the product offerings are very similarly priced in terms of some of the microphones, the table mics. Like the MXA line is very similar to what they're offering for their ceiling microphone. So I thought it was just like a takeover where it was like let's get rid of the competition, you know what I mean? So it just started making me think about like what part of the business model that STEM is providing is valuable. And Peter, you can certainly echo the sentiment on this, but I'm imagining it's on the soft side, which is they have some really cool I guess like an auto tracker that they have, so you can basically track the room live and set up your mic pickups without having to do it with, I know with like Shure, you have the designer software that you can use, but it's not automatic. You have to go in and set it up. And then there was like an auto configurator for the DSP. So that's not necessarily good news for us as on the DSP side, but it's great for someone who's trying to save money and wants to walk into a room, and it can read the room and automatically set up a DSP configuration for it. So it's really cool. I mean, it seems like on the soft side, that's really where the advantage is going to be from Shure being able to offer these kind of, I guess, additional soft products, more so from the side of just auto configuration, auto DSP configuration. The other thing was, I guess, with asset management too. You guys have what looks like STEM has a pretty cool like asset management piece to it. So like all the different endpoints can be monitored through the I guess what's not Shure is going to be Shure's asset management tool. So things like that actually make it a little bit easier for us as integrators. When we can have the end user like monitor what's happening on their network with their service team. It just lets a lot of that low-hanging fruit be managed well by the client, as opposed to, and we'll kind of focus on the bigger issues that kind of come down the line. So it kind of helps to kind of build a little bit of a partnership and alliance with the customer, where we can give them something that they can manage on their own to a certain extent. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Victoria, I want to bring you this because Akeen made a very good point there, and that is kind of that customer facing part, right? And that is the monitoring part. Talk for a second about kind of that customer facing, that experience, whether that is, because it's something that folks don't typically ascribe to Shure, is that they've got an evolving software platform, right? And yes, they've got the DSP, but also they've got a number of other software platforms. Actually, Peter, you guys were still hiring software engineers as of 2 weeks ago to go work over a couple of miles, adding to that team. But talk for a second about the need for the UX, the customer experience, to monitor and maintain and manage all of these systems eventually, obviously over the network, and the importance of that feedback and that two-way communication to make sure that your systems are up and running and are constantly online.
Sure. So actually, I have a question to your question. For Peter, actually, does this make you a little nervous, with all due respect, just because, with during COVID, post COVID, what's the need for these conference rooms? And especially with the real estate, people are not having a lot of office space anymore. Are they having office space? Is there a need for conference rooms? I want to pick your brain a little bit, Peter, on that first off.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think we're definitely seeing kind of it's a mixed bag. I think it depends on where we have kind of seen a lot of growth in our COVID world. I actually is in the need for like higher education. That's another field that we play in pretty strongly and have been doing a lot of deployments lately with a lot of our products. But yeah, the corporate space, it continues to grow. I think it just kind of grows in a different way, just allowing folks to be, the need for being more flexible in terms of a solution for a particular office space. And Akin, you can probably, attest to this in terms of some of the work that you've been doing recently. It's just something that I think really plays into just how we kind of are responding to the pandemic and generally with regards to technology. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Tim, about the user interface, I'm just curious, especially with like the different environments where these solutions will be used. Does the user interface change? We can discuss a whole thing about, is that going to change moving forward? Are people going to be comfortable using user interfaces? Is there going to be a push for more technologies getting into that? So just curious from from an integrator point of view, and even from like Shure, how they're handling these demands.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things that as technology and as software evolves, right, that's going to be incredibly important, which is why you've got folks like Varix and you've got manufacturers who are both investing in software development here in my backyard, Conference Technologies. Mm-hmm. They've got he's a young man. Now, they were still refer to him as the kid. He's in his 20s now, but he started when he was 19, right? And he's a software engineer. That's what he does, and he's been able to develop certain things and make different technologies work together. Now, some of the stuff that he did 10 years ago has become obsolete, and the reason it's become obsolete is because manufacturers have come along and said, "Oh, hey, wait, we need to do this too." And so they've actually developed some things that may have made some of his applications obsolete because they've taken the initiative and connected some of the things in the back end, or provided APIs, quite frankly, provided APIs to let those suckers, tie together. So absolutely. All right. Next story actually comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine. And if you missed it, you can check out my buddy Chris Netto and I in fancy schmancy coats from AV Magazine's awards ceremony from last Friday. He and I, it was kind of a Vegas lounge act, I guess is the best way to describe that. But online event production marketplace goes live. This is Prozaar. It's a marketplace actually helping to provide equipment and services and crews to folks who are putting on events. From the article, thanks to Prozaar's easy to understand interface, quote unquote, which provides a clear view of offered articles and prices, users can save up to 30% on production costs. Akin, I want to start with you on this. Akin is in Jersey. Peter and Victoria are both in Chicago. I'm down in the St. Louis area. Go hail, IBEW #1. I think I'm contractually obligated to say that, at least in the St. Louis area. And if you want to hear my opinions about unions, you can get me offline. But all of our areas are pretty heavily union run when it comes to production. And I want to get your guys' 2 cents, because here's a service that's offering, production both from a virtual production standpoint as well as some of the live stuff. But are we getting is this, when you look at services like this, what are some areas that you're seeing as possible areas that they can, not only move into, but also areas that they should probably consider to grow into over the next year or two.
Prozaar, Prozaar?
Yeah, Prozaar, yeah.
Prozaar is interesting, their business model, because, they're obviously like a one-stop, they're aggregating a bunch of different like great online service platforms. I've been using a bunch of them for years, like Production Hub, Borrow Lenses, ShareGrid, BlinkBid, Smart Shoot. Like there's so many of them. So the specific area that they're going into specifically with broadcast, I think, is an area that I haven't seen quite as much. So I think that they have a little bit of a head start there. Most of what I've seen have been smaller, like streaming type services, like traditional production services, event production services. So my main concern with Prozaar is that there'll be a jack of all trades and maybe a master of none. So I'm really curious to see how they'll kind of like roll out and manage all these different verticals, within the business. But I'm rooting for them because I love these types of services. You save a lot of money. You're able to network in a way that you just typically wouldn't be able to do. You meet everybody online, you can see what they're doing. And then the bidding process, I think, is really, really cool too. It becomes really transparent in terms of opportunities. So the small guys can have a crack at it just as much as the big guys, and then they can bring in other resources and team up with people to be able to approach these bigger jobs that they may not have been able to do before. So I think they're on the right track, and I'm curious to see how it kind of turns out.
Yeah, it's exactly right, and I'm with Akin on this. We've used both Borrow Lenses and Production Hub, depending on where we've been in the last 10 years, for services and help. I mean, it depends. It's sometimes it's more cost effective, right? To Akin's point, to rent gear and have it drop shipped to you, right? Or to connect with a local editor, a local shooter. We've done that a lot, especially around the CEDIA timeframe, the CEDIA Expo. Because that's a show that bounces around from city to city traditionally, whereas in Infocom's case, it's Orlando or it's Vegas, right? Those and you can develop relationships there over years. For CEDIA and CEDIA Expo in the last 10 years, it's been in Indianapolis, Denver, San Diego, Dallas, right? You can't. There's not time to develop that that relationship. When it's what, you're flying in on a Monday, you're going to connect with your shooter and get her set up on Tuesday, and by Thursday, your relationship is done and the transaction is ended, right? And you might be back the next year, who knows, right? So Victoria, talk about this for a second from the standpoint of a freelancer, right? This is a service that is looking to connect, right, folks either that have gear and talents, or talents and or gear. When we were looking at this kind of gig economy, and I don't love that phrase, but it is what it is. In today's kind of culture, but also in the pandemic that we're in, what does it look like when we're trying to not only produce events both virtually and in person, but from a freelancer's point of view? Do services like this, how much do they help and how much do they hurt?
Sure. Well, first off, I think it brings everyone on the same playing field. It's not just word of mouth. Hey, these are the great guys. We're always going to stick with them. Second off, like Akin said, it's great that the networking part of it, smaller towns can have like easier access to these services too. Or, but as far as like a freelancer, I'm interested to see different markets, like maybe the immersive technology realm, production mapping, anyone that does like Unity, VR, AR, are they able to contribute to this sort of service, and, what can come up of it? And I'm super excited to see, if Prozaar is open enough to have these people in there and these like artists and creators come up and bring their creative solutions to, make this happen. So I'm really excited to see who can participate and where things will be going.
Talking my language, Victoria. That's immersive all day, every day. I love it. It's a great space to be involved with. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right, Peter, I'm going to take a little slight left turn here because there's one aspect of this that is interesting to me, and that is in the live events venue. Now, we did have a story. We're not going to get to it yet about esports. That's inherently a live events. It's also streaming, but the real excitement is when you can sit in an auditorium and you watch a live esports part. There are a number of venues. They start out in the smaller ones, but even the bigger venues are getting into this, where they have their own gear, right? They're getting their own stuff, and outfitting their own systems. Here in St. Louis, there are probably, off the top of my head, 4 or 5 decent venues, and I'm not going to besmirch any of the other ones by naming them, but they range in size from 1,000 seats on up to 20,000 seats, right? I guess technically we have the Dome. They used to play football there. They don't anymore. I don't remember why. Because I'm a Bears fan. That's why. But seriousness, these systems these folks are outfitting their own venues. And so if a crew comes in or a tour comes in, they might, they can leverage the in-house gear, or they can bring their own. Where does that put systems like these guys, where they could make their money on, oh, hey, you have a one-off event, or you need to do a somewhat ad hoc event here? Does that put them kind of in direct competition with these venues that are outfitting their own systems, or does that kind of give them using them as a almost as an augmenting to your system? Oh, hey, you know what, we need 3 extra channels, or we need 10 extra channels of wireless for this one act that we simply don't have in house. Let's use these guys.
Yeah, I guess I view it as kind of like something that people can use it as an augmentation type of thing. I mean, obviously you're right. I mean, a lot of these venues, I think, are kind of, having their own gear, but knowing what they might not have everything that every particular act necessarily wants or needs or has to do to be able to, complete their gig or figure out like what the right mix is. So I think having something to complement, having the ability to complement. I looked at Prozaar's website actually before this. I kind of was perusing around and just signed up for an account just to see how it worked. It's pretty interesting. And I think, especially in the day and age of COVID, improvising and getting a little creative in terms of how you source your gear, how you kind of do, whether it's a pop-up show or whatever that ends up needing to be to satisfy the need of, everyone's so hungry for any kind of like live event at this point in time, right? It's like, do what you can, scramble the gear together to pull it off, whether it's virtual or otherwise, or in, someone's backyard or an outdoor show. I think it's just, it's kind of the whole need to get creative aspect to counter what we're all dealing with here. So I think it's complementary. I think it's great.
All right. We're going to finish up this since we are recording this day before Thanksgiving, and I'm nothing if not sentimental. I did write a piece, and it's funny how this has happened. Is our buddy Megan Dutta, every year she asks a handful of AV industry folks, what you're thankful for, right? And it's a nice piece, and she asks me, and so I'm thinking, so I write this like 500-600 word piece. She's like, no, dude, I wanted like 2 sentences. What are you thankful for? Oh, that's what you meant. Okay.
Bite size.
Yeah, bite size. Yeah, dummy. Just give me, 2 sentences. And so I took my original piece and I gave her, a bite size version of that. But then I went ahead and, since I'd already written it and I really meant it, put it on our site. And here's the bottom line for me. I am honest to God thankful for this year. And in the piece I say, I am not thankful that hundreds of thousands of people have died here in the States and pushing on millions worldwide. Not thankful for that. What I'm thankful for is the hardness. What I'm thankful for is the challenge. If you're watching the video of AVWeek, and I mentioned this a couple of times, if you're watching the video and you watched it all year, there's less of me than there was a year ago. And I mean that in a couple of different ways, somewhat snarky, because I've lost damn near 80 pounds in the last 12 months. Right. Thank you. But the other side of that is, I had 80 pounds to lose. So, that's the pessimistic side of me. But this has challenged me in a number of ways. It's challenged me in business, right? We don't do business the same way we did a year ago. You can't, right? There are challenges in the way that we handle. I mean, AVNation is an advertising based, that's how we make money. That's how we're able to stay on the air. Thank goodness for companies like Shure, but there are folks that are having issues. So it's challenged me in ways that we do business. It's challenged me personally. And so I am genuinely thankful for this year. And so I'm going to just kind of go around the horn. Yes, this is 100% an American thing to do, but it is what it is. And I am a big dumb American, and I'll never forget that. So Victoria, we'll start with you. What are you thankful for, either in AV or this year or whatever?
Okay. Well, I do agree with your article, what you said, to think creatively, to slow, there's no rules in 2020, I believe. No. So you really have to push to think creatively how to make things work. So you got to find that silver lining in 2020. And I agree. So I am thankful for being able to slow down and appreciate the little things and having to push forward creatively. I totally agree with you. That's the silver lining in my year.
All right. I like that. Akeem, same question.
The number one thing that I'm thankful for is undoubtedly my family. I was able to spend time with them because of everything that happened, in the last 8 months. I've been able to spend time with them in a way that I've never been able to do in previous years. Just having them right there all the time. Like, I know my kids better. I know my wife better. It's just, I think how it really should be. You really are really able to work on your relationships, and not just personally, but then also professionally. You have to stop and slow down and pause and think about what's most important. That's probably the number one thing. But the other thing that I'm really thankful for is, I guess, a lot of the social truths that have kind of risen to the surface. Yep. That as a nation, we're all being forced to deal with and to resolve. It's created a lot of important conversations that I thought I would never have with certain people, and it makes me very hopeful for the things that we can accomplish, as a country. And then it's just created lots of opportunity, both of you guys are saying with regards to being creative. And I'm all about immersive, and I'm teaching myself Unreal Engine and teaching myself Maya and all these different things that I think have a lot of application to not just being in a pandemic, but just in terms of enhancing and giving us some more interesting ways of engaging in data visualization and content, communicating with each other in more interesting ways. So I'm thankful for all of that, and yeah, and you, Tim. I'm thankful for you, Tim.
Well, thank you, sir. You're very kind. Peter, we'll end it with you on this.
Yeah, I think I echo what Akeem was saying about the family angle. I think, it depends on who I talk to in terms of some of my colleagues. Some are very thankful for their time with all of their family in a really, close situation, maybe a lot closer than you are used to. But I think it's kind of, we've grown closer and, both, physically, obviously, whether we like it or not, but also just as a family, and just kind of be able to, do things together that, kind of, it does force you to slow down. It forces you to say what, let's, okay, no one's going anywhere tonight. Let's just, pop out a board game and, and play with each other and just hang out and just kind of build that connection. So that's been a huge positive. I take it as a big win. I think it's something that, you lose sight of when in the day-to-day of just the chaos of how things were maybe pre-COVID, just in a different way. And I'd say the other thing that's something that I'm thankful for is just the ability to be able to kind of reassess and educate myself on some things that maybe I was trying to get a little bit more, never had time to slow down and actually do, improve myself as, professionally in terms of trainings or whatever else, happens to come along. I'm just able to take more advantage of that. And just really hopefully apply myself to that, because I think it's something that, just always was in the background, but it kind of forced me to reframe how I approach that and what motivates me. So that's something I'm also been thankful for as well.
All right, very good. That'll be a good place to stop. Thank you all so much. Victoria Barella, thank you so much. How do people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at Barella Victoria _, or find me on LinkedIn, just Victoria Barella. And soon, hopefully, I'll be launching my website. So depending when this, launches out, it'll be victoriabarella.com.
Very cool. You should go there even if she's not ready, so you can bookmark it. So, Akin, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it, and I am also thankful that the fact that I got to connect with you through our good friend Charmaine Torella. So, how can people find you or Verix?
For me, Akantayo Adewale is pretty much my username for Instagram, Facebook, etc. Websites are becomingdope.com and also adewale.com. You can see a lot of my just creative work that I've done on there as well. And then verix.com to see what kind of cool stuff we're doing in the AV industry.
Yeah, and just I know I do this to Akin every time that he's on, but when I discovered his YouTube channel, you should go subscribe there, because as somebody who still edits because I enjoy it, not because it's part of my daily job, because it's not, because that's why Mitchell is fantastic at what he does, but as a former editor, and becoming dope is becoming a director of photography and an editor all in one.
Yes.
And that's what gives your vision and your lens such a unique perspective, I think. I think one of the coolest episodes that I watched is when you took kind of, the 3D technology and you recreated a scene of a movie through software, right, that you were able to do. And you're teaching others how to do that as well. I think that's fascinating. So yeah, you should go subscribe to Akin's YouTube channel, if nothing else, but plus check out what he's doing. So
thank you, Tim.
Peter, thank you, sir. And thank you for the coffee addiction, or the continued coffee addiction.
Anything to feed the beast,
Yes,
come on,
sir.
It's all about the caffeine. You can find me on Twitter at PAHERR, and then Shure.com is Shure.com, as you know. So thanks for having me, Tim. It's been great.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thanks for AVNation. Go by our website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find programs like this and a host of others, including our residential show called AVWeek that my buddy Matt Scott gets to host every Wednesday. While you're there, also check out our underwriter section. These are the folks who help us bring you AVWeek, and Shure is one of those, and we thank them for their continued support. So check all that out and more. Also check out AVNetworkNation.com. This is an event that we're putting on with Future. December 10th, get yourself 4.75 CTS RUs, and that's CTS, CTSD, and CTS IRUs. So that's important. But Megan Dutta and I are going to sit down with a whole bunch of really great folks. I'm doing a session on AV over IP, the 31 flavors of AV over IP, as well as audio network security. Megan is doing one on getting back to reality after COVID, how we do that, as well as one on digital signage, and a number of other really great keynotes. That is December 10th. You can check that out at avnetworknation.com. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.